We are, as you can see, waiting on President Trump to exit the plane there in Mar-a-Lago. As we wait on this, I'm joined by Glenn Hall from the Wall Street Journal. And, you know, Glenn, as we think about what he said there yesterday when he referenced the children and the images that he had seen on television, really saying that this had moved beyond any red line, that seemed to me he was signaling, or at least setting the stage for everybody to get ready, because he is about to move. Something more is going to happen. Rex Tillerson basically saying this is not to be tolerated. What do you think?
It sounded like the beginning of a reset, certainly in the approach to Syria. The big question on everybody's mind is, does that also mean a reset in the approach to Russia? Because, of course, Russia has been supportive of the Assad regime.
You know, I also wondered about the timing of the removal of Steve Bannon from the NSC. Could that at all be playing into this, in that maybe Bannon is regarded as a bit more of an isolationist, and maybe he wouldn't want to see us intervening there in Syria, using our resources? Could that have at all been at play? I mean, is this perhaps Jared Kushner moving more aggressively to get Bannon to the side and for us to thus, you know, really move forward in Syria in a way that maybe Steve Bannon wouldn't want?
We are certainly trying to figure out if there are sort of backroom maneuverings at play here, though we were told that much of the Bannon situation was already in motion before the Syria news came out. So that was already coming down the pipeline. So maybe not a direct relationship between those two events, but definitely big questions about whether the ear of the president has shifted to other advisors. And you've certainly seen Jared Kushner getting a lot more high-profile responsibility from the president.
And Ivanka Trump, of course, now taking to the White House. She will have an office there.
Exactly.
In the West Wing. Let's talk a little bit about Russia, because Vladimir Putin has made it very clear that he stands in support of Bashar al-Assad, despite all the horrific things that have happened there in Syria. President Trump has made it clear that he's not out to be enemy number one of Vladimir Putin, and that he felt that we could work together. Is this one issue that's really going to bring all of that to a head?
It's hard to see, because right now you've seen President Trump really pointing the blame at the Obama administration in terms of what's happening in Syria, saying they were too weak and they didn't hold the line when they drew it, and all of those kinds of things. You haven't heard the president pointing his finger at Russia or Putin, saying that their involvement in support of Assad is to blame. So we're really waiting to see if this signal is really a shift in that strategy. And remember, we don't even have a real shift in the Syria strategy. We just have the comments from the president that he was moved, and we need to see what he's been moved to do.
Well, let me just point out that as Rex Tillerson came forward and said, you know, we need to be serious about this, we have seen a slight drop-off here in the market. We had been up roughly 60-some-odd points. We are now looking at a market that is just up 14. So from an investor standpoint, if we find ourselves embroiled in a larger conflict than perhaps we think we might be in right now, doesn't that throw sort of a wrinkle into everyone's thoughts on what is going to happen with our economy going forward, or not?
Well, being able to contain those regional conflicts is important, because you wonder how they spread. And I imagine there's also some concern in terms of whether the president now has to shift his focus to these international priorities, which might derail some of the domestic priorities that he's put forward. If he is not able to put his full influence behind a tax reform or even the continuation of the health plan as they keep trying, but his attention is diverted to Syria and international affairs, that could slow down a domestic agenda.
This is where management style is really going to come into play, because he's going to need to be able to effectively categorize and distribute himself amongst all of these different things that he wants to get done. But then, of course, you have the crude reality of politics getting in the way, and any of the goodwill he may have built up for certain things with his infrastructure program to try and get a tax cut through may actually be affected by the need for more military overseas. And a lot of Democrats may say, yeah, I'll give you this if you give me that, but I'm not going to give you that. So that's where it does, as you point out, become more challenging. I just want to